For most of human history, there were no bedrooms, no locked doors, no lingerie, no romantic dinners, no candles, no playlists, no privacy of any kind. And yet somehow, your ancestors still built attraction, communicated interest, got close enough to start something, and kept the human species going for over 300,000 years. Which raises a pretty strange question. What did foreplay actually look like before any of that existed? And I don't mean just the physical part. That part is obvious. Foreplay is really everything that builds attraction and desire before anything physical happens. The signals, the approach, everything you do to get closer to a specific person before you actually do. In a world with no private spaces, no bedrooms, and 50 people watching at all times, that looked almost nothing like what you'd expect. Let's start with the actual world these people lived in. For most of human history, people didn't live in cities, neighborhoods, or even small villages. Farming only appeared about 12,000 years ago. Before that, humans lived in small groups, usually 20 to 50 people, constantly moving around looking for food and water. That group was your entire world. You knew every single person in it. There were no separate rooms, no doors, no private spaces at all. Everyone slept together, ate together, worked together, and stayed within earshot of each other nearly every hour of every day. So where exactly did foreplay happen when 30 people were always right there? Mostly out in the open, in plain sight, which meant everything you did in front of the group was either building attraction or killing it. Constantly. Imagine trying to flirt while 30 people who've known you since you were born are sitting 3 feet away cooking dinner. Now here's something that sounds pretty boring until you actually think about it. The oldest behavior we can trace, the one that basically started everything else, didn't look like romance at all. It looked like someone going through another person's hair. Primates spend hours grooming each other, moving slowly through fur, picking out parasites, checking for injuries. Totally functional. But evolutionary biologist Adriano Lamera noticed something that happened at the end of every single session. The groomer would finish with one small gesture, pressing their lips lightly against the other's skin. Originally, that was just part of the job, a way to get something out. Then human ancestors started losing body hair over millions of years. Grooming sessions got shorter, less to work through. But that final gesture, the lip press at the very end, stayed long after there was any reason for it. Think about what grooming actually said. You're choosing to spend hours carefully focused on another person, removing things that could hurt them, staying close, calm, paying attention to nothing else. That's time. That's trust built through physical contact. Grooming between primates actually triggers a release of oxytocin, the same chemical your brain releases during bonding, during sex, and during childbirth. The ritual wasn't just maintenance. It was proof that someone mattered, communicated entirely through hours of unhurried attention. In ancient terms, if someone sat down and spent an hour going through your hair, that was the signal. That was the move. Think about that for a second. The ancestor of every romantic gesture you've ever made started because someone was looking for ticks. But most ancient foreplay didn't happen during grooming. It happened at night. Picture a prehistoric night, a fire in the middle of camp. 20 or 30 people gathered in the dark, the only light for miles, the only warmth, the only thing keeping predators away. Before fire, nights were dangerous and people stayed quiet. But fire changed everything. Suddenly, there were hours of safety after dark, with nothing immediately threatening to deal with. And in those hours, things happened. People talked. People laughed. Someone told a story, and everyone leaned in a little closer. Two people sat near each other night after night, a little closer each time. Someone touched someone's arm while laughing and didn't pull their hand back straight away. People danced. Rhythmic movement around fire shows up in virtually every early human culture we know of, and it got bodies moving in close proximity for long stretches of time. Anthropologists studying the Agta people in the Philippines found that good storytellers and funny people were the most sought-after partners in the group, and actually had more children than average. In a world with no money, no house, nothing to show off, personality was completely exposed. The funniest, most engaging person around that fire was the most attractive person in camp. Being funny wasn't just enjoyable, it was proof you were sharp, socially aware, and relaxed enough to play. Those were real credentials. Here's something modern humans have basically erased from the whole picture. Ancient humans had no deodorant, no soap, no perfume. They smelled exactly like humans, and it mattered far more than most people realize. Studies have found that people automatically prefer the scent of someone whose immune system is genetically different from their own. Your body runs a compatibility check through smell, reading someone's genetic makeup and quietly signaling back, whether you're aware of it or not. Ancient humans couldn't cover this up. Every time two people sat close by the fire, groomed each other, or walked anywhere together. That signal was running on both sides the whole time. Your nose has been quietly making these calls your whole life. Ancient humans just hadn't started masking it yet. But the biggest difference between ancient foreplay and ours wasn't the specific behaviors. It was how long the whole thing took. Most animals broadcast when they're fertile. Visible changes. Signals the whole group can read without any guesswork. When the window opens, everyone knows. When it closes, interest moves on. The biology handles everything. Humans lost that signal. Nobody's entirely sure why. That's actually what scientists still debate, not the kissing or the grooming. Why humans evolved to hide the signal in the first place. But once it was gone, desire had no automatic outlet. The body stopped announcing itself, which meant attraction had to build through behavior instead, slowly, over weeks and months, through everything you did and said and how you treated people. And during all that buildup, the brain was doing something useful. Anticipation became part of the attraction itself. The glance across the fire that lasts just a little too long. Two people briefly alone together and both very aware of it. Research consistently shows the brain releases dopamine not just when something good happens, but while waiting for it to happen. Ancient humans felt this constantly. The slow buildup made everything stronger. Every other animal had a biological window that opened and closed. Humans lost theirs and replaced it with something much slower and far more intense, which made trust probably the most powerful thing you could offer someone. In a group of 50 people watching each other all day, your reputation was completely on display. Who shared their food after a hunt? Who stayed calm when things went wrong? Who came back for someone who fell behind? Who never let people down? In a world where your survival depended entirely on the people around you, a selfish or unreliable partner wasn't just annoying, they were genuinely dangerous. Watching someone consistently do the right thing in front of everyone over months, that was attraction building in real time. It just didn't look like what we think of as foreplay. And here's something the movies always get completely wrong. It wasn't just men doing the pursuing. Among the Jew/Hawansi people of southern Africa, women regularly turned down men they weren't interested in. Separation was common and totally accepted. The approach wasn't something one person did to another. Both people had to keep signaling interest, or the whole thing went nowhere. Women set the pace. They always had. Which also meant that if being chosen was the goal, you needed to give people actual reasons to choose you. Someone 75,000 to 100,000 years ago in South Africa, spent hours carefully drilling a hole through a tiny snail shell. Not for food, not for tools. Way too small to be useful for anything practical. But archaeologists found dozens of them strung together, worn smooth from use, coated in red ochre. Think about getting dressed before seeing someone you want to impress. That small thought you have. This looks good. That doesn't. This says something about me. Ancient humans had that exact same thought. They just had shells instead of clothes. Someone spent an afternoon making something whose only job was to make them look worth noticing, worth choosing, not survival. Something else entirely. Now the question the whole video has really been building toward. When all of that had accumulated, the grooming, the campfire, the months of watching someone be exactly who you needed, where did two people actually go? Away from the fire, into the darkness at the edge of camp, down to a riverbank, behind a ridge, into a shallow cave. Short trips away from the group that everyone noticed, understood, and quietly allowed. There was no real privacy, but there was distance and darkness, and the unspoken understanding of a small group of people who had watched two of their own slowly building towards something for months and didn't need anyone to spell it out. The approach happened completely in public. The moment itself was as private as the landscape allowed. And none of this was unique to modern humans. Most people picture Neanderthals as something pretty basic, nothing like the kind of deliberate courtship we've been talking about. Genetics has been quietly changing that story. We know modern humans and Neanderthals interbred. We know they shared the same territory for tens of thousands of years. A 2025 study using evolutionary modeling put the probability that Neanderthals kissed at 84%. That's roughly the same odds as flipping a coin and getting heads. Pretty strongly, yes. There's also physical evidence. Modern humans and Neanderthals share an oral bacteria that only passed between the two species well after they had gone their separate evolutionary ways. The simplest explanation is direct mouth contact. Two totally different species of human, hundreds of thousands of years of separate evolution, still ending up in the dark at the edge of camp after months of slowly building toward it. You share a habit with a species that's been gone for 40,000 years. Here's what all of this actually means. Ancient foreplay wasn't one specific event that happened right before sex. It was daily life. The grooming, the campfire, the dancing, the humor that got everyone moving closer, the food given to one specific person, the months of watching someone handle things well, the shell worn to be noticed, the walk into the darkness that everyone saw and nobody stopped. All of it connected. All of it doing the same thing. And maybe the strangest part is how emotionally similar ancient humans were to us. They got nervous, they got rejected, they lay awake wondering if the person they kept sitting close to at the fire felt the same way. They tried things that didn't work. Those shell ornaments from South Africa, worn smooth not from being made, but from being worn day after day by whoever made them. Someone carried those close to their body not because they had to, but because looking like someone worth choosing genuinely mattered to them. Long before anyone had a word for any of this, someone understood it well enough to spend an afternoon drilling through a shell for it. Underneath the apps, the playlists, the locked doors, humans are still doing the same things that first built around those fires, building trust, making people laugh, trying to be the person that one specific someone notices. That part hasn't changed at all.